August series as well, and where exactly can money be made as well. We'll also be joined by a very special guest, but first up a quick check on the benchmark index moves as we speak. So from a muted start, we're now looking at deeper cuts on the Sensex, 300 points down in trade, below 66,000 mark now. As far as the Nifty is also concerned, that's also trading below the 19,600 mark as well, down 74 points as well. 0.4% of a decline for both these benchmark indices. But let's also look at how the broader markets, the Nifty mid cap and the small cap 100 index are placed. They're doing slightly better off with the mid caps taking the lead there, 0.3% of a move on the upside for this one as well at 37,263 odd levels currently. Among the other sectors, the sectors that are in focus today, of course, in the morning trading session, we did spot a lot of moves coming in on the PSU banking space, but overall Nifty Bank is down by 0.6% odd or so. You're seeing 0.5% declines on the autos as well, financial services slightly down in trade. The IT stocks are dragging 1.2% down in trade. So that is what it is looking like, but it's the realty pack that's improved in trade, 1.7% up. So among the sectoral indices, this is the one that is gaining a lot of ground. 0.5% increase in the metal space, so 0.5% gains coming in for that one. Pharma is flat to positive, but some of the stocks right here definitely nearing those 52-week high levels. PSU banks almost 0.3% up in trade as we speak. In terms of the gainers on the Nifty index, as far as that is concerned, you will spot a lot of names coming in from the power pack. So it's NTPC, Power Grid. These are the names that are shining brightest. From the pharma pack, Dr. Reddy's continues its upward trend, 1.6% up. The other movers include ONGC, JSW Steel and M&M, that's recovering from yesterday's sharp loss. On the downside, however, you will spot some of the stocks as far as the Nifty losers are concerned. Bajaj Finserv is slightly down in trade, 2% down. Maruti Suzuki, TCS is down in trade as well. So some counters from the auto, from the IT pack, HCL Tech, for example, is down. The Tata Group stocks are looking at some decline at this moment as well. But time to welcome our guest on the show. Mr. Abhishek Basu Malik joins in. He's the founder at IntelSense Capital. Many thanks for taking the time out, Mr. Basu Malik, and always a pleasure having you with us. For the Indian benchmark indices, the July series has been a fantastic one. Fourth straight month of clocking in gains as well as record high levels. The Nifty ran up about 700 points or so, but we are still waiting for that 20,000 mark. So going ahead in this August series, do you see the Nifty in its 20s?
Uh, Good afternoon to you and your viewers. See, it's very difficult to predict, in a 1 month time frame what is going to happen. But my sense is that typically we see once the market starts moving up, it tends to, sort of consolidate once it reaches a new high, which is what we've seen. So there is a possibility that we may consolidate between these, say, 19,350 or maybe even 19,000 to 20,000 levels
Okay.
before we can decisively go beyond that.
Okay. So what's your December target for the Nifty then?
Absolutely no clue. I mean, absolutely no idea.
Okay.
But my sense is we will be higher than where we are where we are today.
Okay, understood. We've been seeing a whole lot of macros. The global cues are shaping up pretty well. Most of the global markets are at their 52-week high levels. Nifty, of course, near its record levels as well. Macros are looking steady. No untoward surprises from the central banks right there. Is there any headwind that you see coming for the Nifty or the Indian markets right now that could stall the uptrend that we've been in?
Yeah, I mean, if you start looking for negatives, there will definitely be a lot of negatives that you can look for. One is obviously, the geopolitical scenario that we can look at, whether it is within India, where elections coming up, also some important state elections coming up before the central elections next year. So that could be uh, one place where negative sentiment may come from. Globally also, I mean, although we've seen pretty strong growth numbers from the US last evening, we are also seeing very what lackluster growth coming in from Europe. US also not very certain if things are if things are on the mend, but uh, global economically, things are a bit dicey. It's very difficult to figure out uh, what exactly is going to happen.
Okay, Mr. Basmalik, are you more positive? Do you see more positive triggers or do you see more negative triggers for the markets in the second half of the calendar year?
See, I have always, I mean, in the last, I think, 1 year, I've been maintaining that this year, middle onwards, should be good for Indian markets. And probably we started the rally a bit earlier than I was expecting or hoping for. But the points that I had in my mind is that India is perhaps already at the peak or very close to the peak of its interest rate cycle. We might stay here for a while, but probably as early as Q1 next year, we might actually, go downwards in terms of rates, interest rates. So that could be a very positive trigger. Infrastructure development and focus on infrastructure growth is very significant, very sustained. So domestic economy is doing well. Uh, Monsoon, it's been a bit problematic. The density of rain has been very different across the country, but that is what we are seeing in the last few years consistently. So uh, overall, I think, and most importantly, I think India is very well poised uh, in the global markets. Right, we are one of the those rare economies which is large, which has market depth, which is doing well. So uh, I will not be surprised if we see sustained inflow of foreign capital coming into India.
Okay.
So,
Now, Mr. Pasmalik, so far in the first half of the calendar year, we've seen sectoral rotation being played out. You have seen banks, PSUs as well, defense, railways, and recently pharma stocks also picking up. I wanted to ask you, which is the sector that you believe will now outperform and is set to get re-rated?
very difficult to say. I've been very positive on pharma for the last few months, 3 4 months at least, and pharma seems to have got out of the downward trajectory that it was in, and it should do pretty well. The other couple of sectors which are not being talked about at all right now, which I'm looking at some value emerging in those spaces, is insurance and the AMC kind of business. So the financial side, except the banks and the NBFCs.
Okay, since you're talking about this, the recent entry of Geo Financial Services with the JV plans with BlackRock, how do you anticipate that to have an impact on the entire AMC industry?
Immediate, I don't see any impact. Longer term, see, and we'll have to figure out what kind of products they launch, what kind of returns that they provide. India, we have seen a lot of players come into the asset management space. Some of the global leaders have come and not been able to do anything and have gone away. Right, we've seen Fidelity, come up with a mutual fund and not been able to do anything at all. And so just because it's Geo and BlackRock, and uh, it's not a guaranteed success. So we'll have to wait and see what kind of products they are. Definitely through the Geo platform, distribution might be slightly easier, but I don't think that people who are investing today in mutual funds or in financial products, they lack the distribution reach from distributors. So it's not that the investors cannot be reached today. So ultimate proof of the pudding here will be in the kind of returns and the kind of innovative products that they can launch.
You know, in the Indian markets, we've also seen the broader markets outperform the benchmarks by a wide margin. Do you see this performance continuing, and what kind of stocks are looking good to you from this space?
Uh, so mid caps, small caps have definitely done better than the larger caps, and that is, I think, par for the course, because they were more beaten down, lack of interest. The second thing that happens when you have a lot of capital chasing a few number of stocks that we've seen, happen in India, after a point, your top stocks get saturated. And you as a foreign investor or as large investors, you may not want to buy stocks at 80, 90, 100 p. So then you start looking at the stocks one level below. Maybe look at stocks beyond the Nifty 50 or the Nifty 100 kind of stocks. And if you see new fund launches, from mutual funds, you will get a sense of where the interest is. So we've seen a couple of fund launches from the small cap space. So it obviously means that there is a very definite amount of interest in the small cap, in the mid cap kind of space.
Also, as far as the earnings season has panned out so far, what are your key takeaways from there? Is it just the financials which have shown outperformance, or are there any sectors or stocks that you also believe are ready to have an earnings upgrade now?
See, I mean, you started the program and mentioning the real estate stocks. I think the narrative that is coming out from the real estate companies have been really very strong. We're looking at very strong bookings from most of the players who are, coming out with results. So that remains a very very positive area. You look at infrastructure related companies, whether it's railways or engineering, even cement companies are coming out with a good uh, projection for the future. So that entire space looks interesting.
Okay. Apart from this, I also wanted to understand from you. We've seen, like I was pointing out, the railways and the defense space. After this kind of a run-up, do you think they are poised to now have a change of course? What should one really do with the kind of run-up that one has already seen over the last 6 months, 1 year period?
See, you have to take individual stock specific calls. It's very difficult to broad brush any one industry or a sector. But my sense is it is better to look at companies where the sustainability of growth is going to be there. So whether it is railways, you look at companies, individual companies, and see what they are into, what kind of growth is expected over the next 1 to 2 years or 3 years, and then take a call based on it.
Are you also looking at the power stocks at all? This entire space has been off late buzzing. Would you be more positive on the power generators, the transmitters, or maybe even the financiers? Which is the space that is looking most attractive to you at this point in time?
So I personally feel that the two complete ends of the power supply chain. One is the power producers look very interesting, and the other end of the spectrum, which is the smart meter players, those look interesting. So those two ends of the spectrum look definitely very interesting.
Any particular names that you'd like to take?
You can take a look at, I mean, the entire spectrum. I think in the smart meters, you have HPL, you have Genus. In the power producers, you have NTPC, you have Power Grid, which gets into that sort of that space. Tata Power. So all of these companies, look pretty interesting.
Okay, understood that as well. Any particular sectors where you are now looking at an overvaluation of sorts and undervaluation of stocks sorts?
See, from a undervaluation, I think insurance is a place where there's no fancy at all. Nobody's interested. I think people are sort of bored because nothing has happened for the last 1 to 2 years. That's a space which looks pretty interesting. AMC is starting to look interesting. Uh, Pharma, or definitely banking. So a lot of these spaces are interesting. The consumer names somewhere, I think, uh, tend to be a little bit expensive, but I don't usually want to take valuation calls unless they are either extremely high or extremely low.
Okay. So, of course, we've seen this very sharp run up over the last 3, 4 months odd in the stock markets. Many investors who had still been sitting on the sidelines are having this FOMO that they've not participated. Since you believe that the markets still have the scope to end higher than what we are right now by the end of the calendar year, if they still start afresh, if somebody has 1 lakh rupees to deploy in the markets, how would you advise them to put that money in?
So first is, identify the 10, 15, 20 stocks that you want to buy, and do an SIP on those slowly. I mean, fix up a day of the week, just randomly say every Wednesday at 11 o'clock in the morning, I will go and buy whatever be the price. And just keep deploying over the next 2 months. You know, Try to make it as mechanized as possible so that it becomes easier to implement.
Okay, understood that. Well, thank you so much, sir, for being with us on the show and discussing all these insights. Always a pleasure having you with us. The market's looking slightly muted, 64 points down in trade at 19,595 for the Nifty, 65,993 for the Sensex as well. The latter half, the last 2.5 hours of trade still remaining. We will get to see whether the bulls will make an effort to regain the lost ground, or will we see another session of consolidation and muted trade on the market. So we'll continue to track the market movement for you. You can do the same by being with us on Business Today TV. So don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and also continue to engage with us on our other social media platforms as well. That's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn and Instagram. Until then, thanks for tuning in.
The past few days have been hectic for Indians in the West. The government's move to ban non-basmati rice exports has sparked panic buying from Australia to the US,